Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts podcast. We bring entrepreneurs who are truly making a difference, making an impact, and sharing insights how they have scaled their life and business. Today, we're going to take a different turn because I have a very special guest who is going to share with us, he knows firsthand as aspiring artists who are launching our careers. You have great talent, you have great music, you have a great voice. But if you're not recognized in the music industry, then that you are holding back your talent. So my guest today, Chris Birkett, is going to share with us, and I'm excited to get started with this podcast. Chris is a producer, he's an arranger, sound engineer, and has won a slew of international projects. Chris also is an accomplished guitarist, prolific songwriter, and he has released 6 albums, 2 of his own that he recorded with the legendary Tony Visconti, David Bowie, and the Moody Blues. The other 4 solo albums he released whilst Chris was working and living in France. Chris's passion has truly reflected his creative genius, and through the creative process, Chris has won the biggest successes in his varied and inspiring career. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Alka. It's a pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Well, I want to start with what got you into music, into the music industry? What inspired you, and what made you go that way and to discover the talents that you truly had?
Well, I started getting very passionate about music at the age of around 8 years old.
Mhm.
Um, but I grew up in a very poor family. In fact, my family was, my mother and father broke up when I was 4 years old. So me and my sister grew up, you know, without a proper family, basically, in a very poor area just outside London.
Mhm.
So I was really, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was really passionate. I knew that I just loved music. I was really into, like, in those days, bands like Yes, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Gentle Giant, John LaPonte, some really high level musicians. And I just loved it. And I just wanted to do that kind of thing myself. But I didn't have any money. So I rummaged around at the age of 8. I rummaged around in the garbage and got some wood. And I made my first guitar out of pieces of stuff that I could find lying around. And I managed to get some some banjo strings from somewhere. And so my first instrument sounded rather like a koto. It was like this kind of ding ding sort of thing, but it enabled me to make music. Uh, and then when I was 12 years old, I saved up every penny I could find and got one of these club book order guitars.
Mhm.
At that point, I was left-handed. I am
Okay.
naturally left-handed, but when I bought my first real guitar, I could not afford the left-handed version. So, I mean, Jimi Hendrix just turned the guitar over and played it the other way, right? But I didn't want to do that. So I bought this guitar. I got the right-handed version. I decided to switch at the age of 12, and
Mhm.
then within 2 years, I'd formed my own band in Farnborough, and we started doing gigs. But I have to tell you that music has my passion for music has saved my life literally many, many times. And I'll just give you one example.
Right.
Uh, Most of the people I grew up with, my peers and my neighbours in Farnborough, which is the town where I grew up, most of those ended up in prison um, because of the type of area we lived in. It was very survival. You either survived or you died. It was very rough. And a lot of my friends would go to the pub every night and drink 14 pints of beer and then
Oh wow.
go out and beat people up, right? So, but I didn't want to do that. I've always been very compassionate and not interested in violence at all. So, so one evening they invited me out. And I said, no, I'm going to stay home and practice. So I stayed home with my Led Zeppelin records and learning all the Jimmy Page's riffs, on guitar and stuff.
Yeah.
So that they went out that night, my friends, and they robbed a Chinese restaurant.
Oh no.
They threw all these bricks through the windows and destroyed this place, and they got caught, and they all ended up doing time. So that's one example. If it hadn't been for my passion for music, staying at home and just learning these records, I would have been there with them and
Hmm.
dragged into that whole thing. So
Right.
music really saved my life many times, and that's just one story. I've got thousands of them. So I'm very grateful, and I'm also extremely full of gratitude for being able to have the talents I do have. I'm actually
Yes.
I'm actually a natural born drummer. When I was about 12, I joined the Sea Cadets as not because I wanted to be in the Navy, but because they had a band, a
Right.
military band, and literally I went to the first lesson, and the instructor showed us some rhythms, and I got it straight away. And people were like spending months trying to learn these rhythms. I just got it as soon as I heard it. I was doing it. So I've
That's
got this natural inborn gift, which is probably in my DNA. I can't claim credit for it. It's just a gift,
right.
and that's carried me through. I've always been really percussive. I play guitar, and I play bass, and I play keyboards, and I play a lot of world music percussion. You can probably see around the room here that I've got a lot of instruments all around me, which are from different cultures, and
Right.
I learn them and I play them all and I record them on records. So I mean, music's been for me. It's been literally my life-saving gift, and I'm so full of gratitude. I've left so many great songs on this planet. So when I check out and go off to the universe, which we all do, I know that I'm going to go with the deep feeling of gratitude that I've actually left a lot of great music here for other people to enjoy. People
Absolutely.
still in the material world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with the talent that you truly have, and you're gifted, so you truly have to harness those talents. And I mean, I have a drum set in my basement. I don't often go to the basement. Sometimes, once in a while I might, but I have been taking vocal lessons, and I think that is really, I just wanted to challenge myself
Yeah,
to see, can I really do that? And I've got to tell you, I love it. And I have a friend who I just, he helps me out. But I think, when you have a talent, you really have to harness that. And I've got to say, I've listened to you perform. The first time when we came out was at the Hughes Room in downtown
yeah,
Toronto,
yeah.
and and I've got your album, My Guitar, and Chris. I have to say, I want to acknowledge you. That album, your voice. I love all the songs in that album. It is so beautiful, and your voice is very soulful. And I have messaged you about your voice. It truly
Thank you.
is soulful, and I love it. So I am curious, as you've got a very unique sound, was there a moment in your life, you thought to yourself, this is my sound? Was there a
Uh,
moment?
yeah, well, we're very much, as human beings, we're very much a product of our environment. So I was living in. I'll just give you a quick story. I was kind of I ran away from home at 19 because I didn't feel I had a home. So I went to London. I ended up sleeping on the streets in London for some time, trying to find work. I was playing in Irish pubs and stuff like that. And then one day, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was working in a gas station doing night shift to try and so I could get my own place to live. And this band came in and sort of said, "Are you Chris Birkett, the guitar player?" And I was sort of like, "Well, how did you know that?" Sort of thing. And they said, "Well, you've been recommended to us,
Oh,
and
wow.
we've got an 18-month tour of Germany.
Mhm.
Uh, would can you come with us?" And I said, I was like, "Wow, can't believe this." I said, "Yeah, of course." I said, "When is it?" Thinking it was like we're going to rehearse and
Right.
2 months
Yeah.
ahead. They said, "Well, we're leaving tomorrow morning at 7 a.m."
Oh, wow.
so,
That didn't give
so
you much time.
no, so I had to like literally quit my job on the spot and to grab a few bits and jump into the van and truck over. But this is my in reference to your question about influences, where I get my soulful voice from and all that stuff. Well, up to that point, I was really a rock singer, and
Right.
I was a rock guitarist. I was really Led Zepp, Deep Purple, Free. So I'm a big fan of them. And Paul Rodgers is one of my favorite white soul singers. Do you know who, you know who that is?
Paul Rogers? No, I don't.
Yeah, a band called Free. They had a big hit with "All Right Now." All right now,
Oh,
baby, it's
yes.
all right now.
Yes.
That was a
Uh-huh.
big. But they did some really great records. So so up to that point, I was kind of a rock, like a rock singer, rock guitarist. But this band that I just joined to go to Germany, they're called Montana Red Dog. They were a soul band. So I never really got into, I never, I loved James Brown and, sort of stuff. I
Right.
never really
Yeah.
got into soul music as such because I was, a little white boy from Farnborough. So, and I was really into the Beatles, of course,
Yes.
my
Oh, yeah,
favorite
the famous Beatles. Yeah.
well, my favorite songwriters ever. I don't know how they came up with all that stuff. I think it's just channeled. But anyway, so I went over to Germany, and then we became like the top band in Germany, soul band. We had horns and everything. It's really cool.
Amazing.
And so I really got into all the soul music, and then the agent asked us if we could be the backing band for Rufus Thomas, who was a funky. He did the Funky Chicken and Walking the Dog, all those hits. Stax
Uh-huh.
artists, from America. They would fly over to entertain the NATO troops in Germany. So we became the band. We were their band when they came over. It was Rufus Thomas. I got to do a tour, lots of tours with him. Ann Peebles, she's a beautiful soul singer. She had a hit with "I Can't Stand the Rain,"
Oh,
and
I Can't Stand the Rain.
I
Yes.
can't stand the rain. It
Right.
might be
She's got a
wrong.
great voice too.
Yeah, so she's a lovely lady. I spent a long time with her. So those people really influenced me into soul music. So I suddenly had this kind of rock background, but with the soul
So,
influence.
yeah. So you merged the two together.
Yeah, and also I loved funk. I was really into the early Commodores and OJs and all that stuff. And which is like funk groove music.
Yeah.
Larry Graham, Sly and the
Right.
Family Stone, sort of
Uh-huh.
stuff. So I really because of my rhythmic thing, my drumming thing, I was like really into like grooving guitar. That
Yeah.
kind of that style. So I had a really wide palette of influences, and then over the last 40 years or so. I've been making, I've lost count how many records I've made, but I've I've been involved in 11 number one hits. As
Amazing. Congratulations.
not always as producer, but I was an engineer, recording
Amazing.
engineer for some time, and I ran a studio in London. And I got last count, I got my name on well over 100 million records from different.
Congratulations, Chris.
Yeah, but that was going from the transition for me. Actually, I'll just give you because people are probably wondering how come he's a guitarist in a soul band and and he's this top producer making all these hits. Well, what happened is that I came back from Germany and I joined a band called Love Affair, and they just had a hit with a song called Everlasting Love.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know that song?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Open up your eyes, then you realize.
I know. It's
Yes,
beautiful. Love that song.
yes, that was a kind of poppy soul,
Hmm.
white soul record.
Right. Yeah.
So I toured with that band for a number of years, and we were playing to stadiums. So I was going from like homeless musicians sleeping under hedges in London. Within a couple of years, I was playing to stadiums with
In
thousands of people.
stadiums. Yes.
It's like really weird, totally weird. But anyway, so the bass player in that band told me about this band that had just been signed to this huge deal with Tony Visconti. And Tony
Right.
Visconti is the producer of David Bowie and the Moody Blues and all those great
Right.
artists. So
Yes.
Tony was married to Mary Hopkin at the time. She had a big hit with Paul McCartney, wrote the song called Those Were the Days. Those were the days,
They.
my friends. So I got really friendly with her and Tony. And
Right.
it's Mary that heard the demos of the band that I joined on a cassette. She heard it and said, Tony was looking for a new band to produce. He said, listen to this band. And the band was called Omaha Sheriff, which is
Okay.
it's a bit like a play on words of Omar Sharif, but it's Omaha.
Right. Yeah.
And we got to do 2 albums with Tony.
Hmm.
In fact, we had a multi-album deal, but his company collapsed. Somebody was embezzling money. It's another story, but they had to close the company. It's called Good Earth Records.
Hmm.
So Tony became my mentor. I just love watching him work. He's such a great sound engineer and great producer. And I was like constantly asking him, annoying him, asking questions. How'd you get that sound? How'd you get that great kick drum sound? I was watching him all the time. So I learned how to. I went from musician to learning how to make great sounds in the studio. So it's literally kind of engineering initially.
Right. Yeah.
And then I opened my own studio in London, and because I worked on all these great records, I worked with like top artists, made a lot of hits. My first hit that I was involved with was Gino by Dexy's Midnight Runners, and that
Oh,
was
yeah.
number one for like 11 weeks in the UK.
Right.
But funnily enough, all the time I was doing all that, I was always writing songs. But I was keeping them on the back burner. I quite often didn't get time to even record them.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So, which brings me to another point, because I'm going to put out an album later this year. It's called New Songs from the '80s, because I've got so much music I was writing in those days when I was making all these hits for other people.
Yeah.
I just thought, I need to get this. I need to let people hear this because it's really good music. I mean, you wouldn't believe how great the songs are, but I've got to put them all together. I've got too many actually, so I've got to pick the best ones and stick them in probably a 20 song album.
Right.
Called New Songs from the '80s. So look out for that one. That's going to be coming out fairly soon. But so anyway, that's how I got to answer your question. That's a long-winded reply. I got into my music has been influenced by all this stuff that's been happening to me, like the soul music, the rock, the influences like David Bowie, Tony Visconti, and I work with Trevor Horn, who's Seal's producer, and also Mutt Langer, who's Shania Twain's husband, but he was also Def Leppard's producer. So I got to work with all these people, and not many people know this, but it was me that programmed the drums on Pyromania, which is a 40 million selling album by Def Leppard. That's actually me programming the drums. It's not the drummer.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
no, nobody knows it because they weren't allowed to credit me on the record because
Oh,
the fans would not like to know that this guy called Chris Birkett, who's an engineer down at the studio in London, put all the drum track sounds together and recorded them. So the reason that happened is Mutt Langer wanted the latest technology on this particular album he's working on, and he wanted to use a sampler that just come on the market. It's called a Fairlight. It's made in Australia. It cost $100,000, and there's one in my studio in London, and he wanted that sound on the new Def Leppard album. And he spent months and months in the studio recording and sampling the best snare sounds and kick and hi-hats, right? So, but this machine was a monophonic machine. You can only do one sound at a time, and you had to type in a code for it to play against a computer code. But you have to type. It's called Music Composition Language (MCL), and it's a bit like HTML. It's really complicated.
right. Yeah.
But I knew how to do it. So because I had this technical electronic background when I left school. So Matt asked me to do all the, listen to the drummer. I had to listen to what he was playing on a demo tape. I had to score it all out in music score because it had to be reduced to mathematics.
Right.
And then each sound has to be given a name and a duration. It's like murder. It's not like
wow.
it's not like today where you get like a keyboard like this. You just hit that. And
You just key it in.
kick drum comes out.
Yeah.
Yes, that's steady. That's called MIDI, musical instrument digital interface. But before all this, it was the very first sampler was all done on music composition language, and which is a very complicated code. And I spent 6 weeks getting all this information into the computer, and then we spent another 6 weeks recording it all in monophonic, one sound at a time against the click. And Matt would sit there for hours, nearly the whole day, listening to a hi-hat against a computer click. I think it's a little bit early. And to move the timing, you have to change completely new code for the code that's driving the machine. It's called the SMPTE code, SMPTE code. And so anyway, I had a vast experience in programming, which hardly anybody I know has that much experience.
Yeah.
So I actually became like one of the world's top programmer.
Amazing.
For music, so for drums and keyboards and all that stuff. So that's all that stuff added to my little palette of abilities that I could use to make music. But now, when I arrived in Canada in 2012, I decided to not move away, but literally get my stuff that I've been writing all these years off the back burner and getting it out so people could hear it, because I believe that my music's is worth listening to, and I never write, rubbish lyrics. Everything I write has a meaning and a purpose.
Yes.
So so I felt that that's what people need to hear, and they call me the singing therapist. I did a workshop with some Indigenous people 2 days ago, and I played live. I played a song called "Big Fan of Myself,"
Uh-huh.
which I wrote some time ago, and the song is about feeling good about yourself. It's not about being the
Yes.
egocentric. It's about realizing that you're a divine being full of light, which we all are, right? And,
Right.
and it's really powerful. And people are just like totally like. The guy came up to me after who had organized it, and he said, us Indigenous people, we've been talking about this for years. He said, but
Wow.
you took it to another level. He said, I can't, you said things that totally opened it up, you know. So because I do a talk, before I do a song, I usually tell them what it's about and why I wrote
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
it's it usually has a philosophical kind of context.
Yes.
So, which is involved with therapy and it's about feel good. I believe I don't want to get too spiritual here, but I believe that if you want to be in communication with the creator of the universe, you have to find a way to get on the same frequency. It's all
Yes.
it's all about resonance, and I understand that because I did an electronics degree on this school. Now, resonance means simply that when something vibrates at a certain frequency, and the thing next to it is also, it's like two guitar strings, right? You tune a string to A440, you tune another string to A440, you pluck one string, the other string will start moving because
Oh,
they're resonating, they're in the same frequency.
frequency.
And
Yeah.
and it's exactly the same with if you want to be in the frequency of the creator of the universe, which is all about love, then you have to do the same thing that the creator's doing, which is you have to help other people. You have to find a way of giving and helping others. Uh, I'll give you a quick. I don't know how much time we got, but I've got loads of stories. But the story I shared with these indigenous people was a story of my life in the south of France. I,
Right.
After the Sinead O'Connor hit, I had quite a lot of unimaginable amount of money coming in royalties, which I wasn't used to. So I bought a 32-room chateau in Bordeaux and built a studio there for world music from around the world. People, the Buena Vista Social Club came there and recorded a lot of
Right.
big artists. Bob Geldof. I did a lot of really big artists there. And but anyway, every weekend I would go to a monastery because at that time I was studying all the world religions. I studied Islam, I studied Sufism, Hinduism, the Upanishads, all that stuff. I was really interested in everything. But I found this monastery which practiced Tibetan Buddhism, and the Dalai Lama used to go there, so it's
Oh,
quite an important place. So anyway, I went there every weekend, and I was sitting in this room, meditation temple, and and literally this went on for 2 years, right? So I was sitting there one day, and I thought, there's something like I'm not doing right because I'm sitting there asking for enlightenment, which people
yeah.
do. I was in a
Yeah.
room full of people, they were all sitting on cushions, and we all had their eyes closed, and we were sitting there just meditating. But I felt that I was asking for something. I felt I was like, is my ego was grasping. I want to be enlightened. I want to know how to really love. I want to blah blah blah, right? And I
Yeah.
thought this is all about me asking for something. I'm gonna try something different. So I said to myself, and I was sitting there with my eyes closed, meditating. I thought, I'm going to forget about asking for anything from me. I'm going to put all my desire and all my intention into asking for enlightenment for those people around me in the room. And at that moment, I did that. Everything changed. And that's when I experienced a very powerful miracle. I felt suddenly this golden light coming through me like a river
Wow.
across the floor and into the other people. I felt it, but I had my eyes closed. I could just see it. Maybe my third eye, I don't know. But it was so powerful. I opened my eyes, and for the first time in 2 years, going there every weekend, I was in that room. I don't really understand that, but it's, I was present. It's called the gift of presence or gift of awareness of the now. I
Hmm.
was suddenly opened my eyes. I could see everything like I'd never seen it before, and I saw it for what it really was, like the statues and all the beautiful things in the room. I saw everything,
Amazing.
and they say that the reason why presence is called presence because it's a gift. The gift is a present. I put that in one of my
Right.
songs.
Yeah.
But so that's I've been thinking about this a long time. It was a very powerful experience for me. It literally changed my life, and I realized that what I did is that I raised my vibration sufficiently through not through my desire to help other people. I suddenly hit the same frequency that the creative spirit works on because I was not trying to grab things for me. I want
Yeah.
this, I want enlightenment. I want to be a Buddhist. I want to be all this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Suddenly it was completely the other direction. I wanted good. I was actually hit the frequency of love, the frequency that creates love in the universe and makes all these planets and this beautiful nature. It's all coming out, flowing out from the creative spirit, I call it. And I'm going to give it a name because as soon as you say God, it immediately becomes Christian. If you say, Brahma, it becomes Hindu.
Universe is better.
Yes, it's the universe. It's the creative. I call it the indigenous people call it the great creator. I like the way they refer to it because it's not male or female,
Right.
and it's what it is.
Yeah.
But it's about love. So it has a vibration and a frequency that helps it and enables it to grow everything in the universe, the beautiful universe, which is constantly expanding and growing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so the trick is to find out how to get into that frequency, and
Yes.
that's how you do it. You do it by helping others, and that's it. And Jesus Christ said the same thing. No
He
greater
did.
love has you than you give your life for another person.
Yes.
It's a detachment from ego. That's what they're talking about. So that's something I learned quite a few years ago when living in the south of France, and I had a lot of epiphanies. I went to India, and a lot of things, strange and very strong things, happened. But what happened to me in India, when I came back, I didn't have to try and write songs anymore. I became a channeler. Before
Oh,
up to that point, I used to sit there and what I'm going to write about. And, this is when I was this is quite a few years ago, but then you don't have to write songs. Song music is a gift. You
hmm.
just have to listen for it and accept it. So I learned that I didn't have to try and write songs anymore. All my songs come to me in dreams. Everything I've done in the last 20 years has come to me in a dream, usually at 4 a.m., which is what time I usually habitually wake up. Great energy at 4 a.m. People aren't using too much electricity and everything's quiet. But I
So when
wake
you
up,
wake up, do you write it down? When it
yeah, oh
comes in your
yeah,
dream, you just
yeah,
write
I
it
do.
down?
Yeah, you have to. You have to. I told Buffy St. Marie about this, one of the people I've produced, and she said, yeah, she said that happens to me too. She said, if you if you don't, they're gifts that you're given, and if you don't grab them, somebody else will get them.
That is true. Exactly.
It's
It's
almost like in the Hindu philosophy, they talk of the Akashic records, which is every thought, every passion, every idea ever known in the past, present, or future is all stored in the universe. You just have to listen for it. Okay,
yes.
and that's what I do. I don't. My music just comes through me now without any effort, but I have to get out of bed at 4 in the morning, reluctantly sometimes, because I'm hearing this beautiful melody, and
Amazing.
I have to grab my voice. Thank heavens for voice memos, and before that, dictaphones. That's what I used to use.
Hmm.
Thank heavens for that ability to be able to capture it.
That is so good.
I grab a
Wow.
guitar, I sing whatever's in me, and then I just go back to sleep again till like 6 or 7. And
Amazing.
that's
That's
how
so good.
all the music on "She's My Guitar," the last album I did, all came that way.
That's beautiful. So, Chris, you know what? That is, you are such a, you have a gift, you have a talent, and when you started to get success, you started to get the fame, was it harder to develop, create those deep meaning relationships, or was it easier once you got the fame? Can you share with us?
Uh, well, there's different levels of fame. I mean, in a public sense, I'm not a famous person. I'm really, to use the word fame, but I'd say well known, I guess. But I'm more well known in the music business, or what used to be the music business. There's another story, but anyway, I've never really. I've worked with really famous people,
Hmm.
and I worked with Sting and Peter Gabriel, and a lot of really well-known Steve Earle, a lot of really big Sinead O'Connor,
Yeah.
But they, what happens to? There is a problem with some people. I work with a guy called Errol Brown from Hot Chocolate.
Oh,
He
yes.
he's a classic example of somebody who became famous and it went straight to his ego because he was not ready on soul levels to receive that kind of gift. And
Right.
but I talked to Sting about this, and he actually came up with that expression when we were talking. He said some people are not ready on soul levels for what they're receiving, and what happens is they're receiving a lot of energy. Because it's energy from the creator, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what's making them rise and become famous. But if they're not ready for it, if their soul, they have a soul of a 3-year-old still, whatever, what do you want to call it? Some souls are older, some souls are
Right. Yeah.
also developed. If an undeveloped soul gets that, starts to receive that energy, it can actually make them totally crazy, or it can make them really obnoxious and big-headed, and they start to believe that they're gods or something. And I've had that a lot. I've worked with a lot of really famous top bands, just been signed. They're like really big in England, and they're like Talking Heads, and I've worked with a ton of really well-known people, but they some of them can handle it. Like Sting and Peter Gabriel were ready for their success, and
Yes.
they're not bad people. They're really nice. You sit with them on a tour bus, which I was, because we were touring Europe, making concerts for the Kurdish people to bring money to that culture at
Yeah.
that time. They were very human, you know, kind, compassionate, sensitive, and the fame did not go to their
The
head.
hand.
Right. So there is a very different type of fame, and there's fame which can destroy somebody. Uh, so I've never been famous in the public thing because I left my music on the back burner in 1993, and I built a studio in the south of France. And I did that because I wanted to see my kids. I had 2 young kids, and I was so busy working, traveling the world, making records, that I was missing the whole childhood. And so that's why I
Mm.
decided to buy the chateau and build a studio and just live there with my family. So and it was a family decision. But before I left London, I had the best manager in the world was very interested in me because I just released an album called Men from the Sky, which is
Uh-huh.
based on the Columbus first contact with the indigenous
Hmm.
people. And um, but his name was Ed Bicknell, and he's the manager for Dire Straits,
Oh,
who
okay.
Mark Knopfler is one of my favourite guitar players. And so Ed phoned me up and he said, I just heard Men from the Sky. He said, this is the best album I've heard in 7 years. And that was a real compliment because I love Dire Straits. And he said, come and see me. So I went to his office in London and we had a chat, little friendly chat. And he said, do you want a record deal then? I said, yeah, I wouldn't mind. So he picked up the phone, and he's such a big guy in the business. He just picked up the phone to Polydor and said, and he got me signed straight away for that album. So, all that was happening. But at the same time, I was so busy. I was literally working 48-hour shifts sometimes with no sleep.
Oh, wow.
I'd work with a guy called Malcolm McLaren for the Sex Pistols,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
he's him and his team were all, and Dusty Springfield too. They're all cokeheads. Yeah, those people would keep me up all night in the studio and all the next day. And I would get home after 2 days and I sleep totally exhausted. And then my kids would be jumping on me, Daddy, Daddy. So I came to a crisis point and I thought, this is not really living.
Hmm.
This is not what I consider real life. Yes, I'm getting really successful and I'm making a lot of money, but, there's got to be more to life than that. I'm missing my kids. For me, being a good father is more important than being the president of the United States. It's,
Right.
it's really, really important. So that's why I chose deliberately to actually get out of the business. So of course, if I hadn't done that, I probably would have been uh, very famous as a artist because my music is as good as any of the best.
Oh, absolutely. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I just chose
Yeah.
not I just chose not to go up that road, and I don't really regret it. I think I did it for the right reason.
Hmm.
But now I'm in Canada, and Canadians seem to really like my stuff, so I'm back out there playing it, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm playing tonight with a blues band. I play bass for them. I
Amazing.
just love because I play everything. So we're playing at the Black Bear in O'Connor Street.
Hmm.
Uh, uh,
Beautiful.
so show starts at 8. So if you're free, come down. I don't know whether you're in Toronto, are you?
In China, yeah. I live in North York. Hmm.
Oh, it's quite close to you. Why don't you come down?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not singing very much. I'm going to do. They really like my songs, so we're going to do a few of my blues
That's
songs.
beautiful.
It's a
No,
blues
that's
band, but
that is so good.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting in on bass mostly. So
Amazing. And what year was all of this when all of this was happening, when you started to collaborate,
oh,
with these bands?
early
What year were we
early
talking about?
early 90s.
Early 90s.
Well, I did some really big hits in the late 80s. Like Dixie's Midnight Runners was a hit in late.
Oh, this song's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's Gina,
absolutely.
Gino, and then they had another hit which I didn't do called "Come On Eileen." That was after. That was the next one. I stopped working with them because they were like really real roughnecks. I mean, I came from a rough area, but they
Right.
came from like this really rough place in Manchester, and
Hmm.
and literally, I'm so glad I didn't do the second album because I heard what happened. They ransomed BMI. They broke into the studio
Oh no.
where there's in those days it's 2-inch tapes,
Yeah,
24 track tapes.
right.
They beat up the engineer and took the tapes and ransomed EMI for more money.
Oh no.
So luckily I wasn't working on that record because I would have probably got my neck broken or something. But anyway, that's the kind of thing you have to deal with sometimes. And yeah, fame can be very damaging to some people, really damaging. So you just, if you're not developed enough to handle it, then it's going to be a problem.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question, it was late 80s. I started to surface as a really well-known engineer producer, and actually released a couple of things myself as well because I still managed to squeeze in enough time sometimes to do a great record. And I put out this record called Aphrodisiac, and
Oh yes.
it became like everybody remixed it. Norman Cook, some really big people,
Mm-hmm.
Fatboy Slim, all those people. So
That was
Um, and that was all me on just playing with my sampler because I was like really, really good at it. I put all these world music sounds into my sampler and triggered them all and made this great groove. Played
right.
bass and drums, and that was a huge hit. So I managed to squeeze out a few things now and again. I wrote a song called "Kiss of Life," and then Quincy Jones heard it and asked if he could record it on Saida Garrett's debut album. So they used "Kiss of Life" as the title track of the album. It's pretty cool. And Quincy phoned me and asked me. Well, actually, his manager wasn't him himself, but his manager, his office phoned me and said, "Could you let us know what sounds you use on the demo because it's fantastic." So
Yeah.
I told them all the keyboards I was using and how I got the sounds, and they used those sounds on the finished record.
Yeah.
So I was managing to, amongst all this, producing and all that stuff I was doing and mixing and everything, I managed to get out a record now and again for myself. But now I'm really determined to just get I've got so much stuff. I've got thousands of unreleased pieces, literally, and I want to get that. I want people to hear it and enjoy it. So
Yeah, you should.
yeah, so that's what I
Absolutely. Hmm. Absolutely. So, Chris, what is a non-negotiable for you in a day when it comes to performance?
non-negotiable.
Yes,
Uh,
on the day of your performance.
well, taking my clothes off, I wouldn't do that. Is that what you mean? Like, not something you just
Yeah,
wouldn't.
like, what would you not do? Like, what are some of your
Oh
routines?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I wouldn't get drunk.
yeah.
No, I never touch alcohol if I'm doing anything. If I'm performing, I
Hmm.
might have one glass of wine, but I did actually have a Jack Daniels once before a gig at the Linsmore Tavern in Toronto because I had a throat infection. I couldn't even talk, but I had to do a gig. And somebody said, "Well, if you try just a shot of Jack Daniels,
Right.
it will help your throat." And I did it, and it totally went.
It made it worse.
No, it actually went. I could sing
Oh, it
really.
went. Oh,
We fixed it. But non-negotiable would be I don't smoke. I wouldn't take any cannabis before a concert because I like to be really clear-headed when I'm
Yes, you have to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got a lot of things to remember. I've got to remember all my songs, all my words.
Hmm. Hmm.
One thing writing an album, where you're writing words and I've got books full of words everywhere, but uh, and which I got I could look at the words and sing it straight away. But next you've got to perform it. You've got to remember all that.
You got to remember that. Yeah.
And what you were doing on guitar. Like I got this project with the Free Spirits. Sherry, she was with me at Sherry
She
Talent,
was. Yes.
with me at the Horseshoe, and the Free Spirit stuff's really like high level music. It's like Yes, you remember that band Yes? So
I've heard the band. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Google them. Go on YouTube and listen to a Yes concert. They're just amazing. Just
They're amazing. Amazing
they,
band.
they write their music composition is on a classical level. It's on the level of Mozart or Beethoven. It's brilliant. There are 10 movements in one song. So that's what the sort of thing I do with the Free Spirits. You can't do that. You can't be drunk or stoned
No,
when you
you can't.
you've got to really focus
Mhm.
because it's a lot to remember. So I guess that's my chief thing I would not do before a gig.
Right. What is the song? And I love the album, The Free Spirits, and Sherry was absolutely amazing when we heard you at the Horseshoe Tavern.
Yeah.
What would you say, Chris, is the song that you would choose from the new album that you have coming out? What's that first song? And could you play a song for us?
Oh, sure, yeah. One of my favourite songs to play on acoustic would be "I Found You,"
Okay.
because it's a spiritual song. It sounds like a love song, but it's actually about finding what we were talking about earlier, finding God.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
to use the word God because it has too many connections, but it's about finding the light inside yourself and being so overwhelmed and full of gratitude that
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
got a song called Gratitude on the album too, but I could play "I Found You." I'll just see if my guitar's in tune. I've got loads of guitars, by the way. Look,
You have. I know. I see it.
there's all this stuff like just everywhere.
Oh, wow.
They're all hanging on the wall. There's like
Oh,
tons.
nice.
Yeah, and they're all really nice. So I love my guitars. So let's have a look. I use this Takamine, which I bought in 1983.
Oh, beautiful.
I don't know whether it's in tune though. Sorry about this. Close enough. Close enough for jazz,
Beautiful.
as they say.
Wow. Love that.
I don't know if it's going to sound all right because we're on Zoom. Zoom sometimes squashes the sound.
Well, it sounded good.
Recording.
Sounded good.
I'm going to put original sound for musicians on. Okay, it won't change anything for you, but it'll just make me sound better. The original sound for musicians is on. Noise suppression is disabled. Because what happens? The standard Zoom setting. If there's anything percussive, like a guitar strum, it thinks it's a noise and cuts it out. So it's terrible for music.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a little thing on top right box. You can turn that off so it doesn't suppress noises. Then you get a much purer sound. So hopefully this is going to be. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
So, okay. So this is "I Found You." I hope I can remember it. Here I stand with open arms for everyone around me, wondering what is wrong with this crazy world I see. Even as a child, there were no answers to my questions. But then I saw the light when I found you. The more I learned, the less I understood. Why should I be a soldier with all the troubles of the world resting on my shoulders. I knew the day would surely come when I became much older. The earth was warm and blue when I found you. Then it came to me in a symphony of light. Everything was clear. I knew that it would be alright. And night turns to day. That's the way it came to be when I found you. Now with open heart and open mind, love around me, I can hear the mountains sing. There are no boundaries. I learned to love my life and love myself and those around me. No need to fight for right, 'cause I found you. Then it came to me in a symphony of light. Everything was clear. I knew that it would be alright. Night turns to day. That's the way it came to be when I found you. Night turns to day. That's the way it came to be when I found you. I found you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Don't know what that sounded like on Zoom. I hope it's all right.
But there is an echo.
Oh, is there an echo coming through?
Yeah.
Well, let's put this back on sound for, yeah, because that's it. Original sound for musicians off.
Okay.
We're back.
Amazing. Amazing. Chris, that was so beautiful and very soulful. I love that song. And, you know, it truly is, yes, a gift that we're talking about that you truly have and how other people can really aspire to have. And as I said earlier on in my introduction, as individuals want to get into the industry, but it can be challenging. You know, you have a great voice, you have a great band, everything is just amazing. But then when you want to break through in the music industry, it may not be the same today. Do you find the industry is the same? You know, is it more challenging for people who want to break into the music industry? Is it more challenging today than it was back in the 80s or 90s, perhaps? Or was it easier? Because now, back in those days, I remember there was MySpace, there was Napster.
Yeah.
I listened to those. And so is it more challenging today? I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, first thing I want to say is that there isn't really a music industry today as such. The way that it used to be done in the 80s and 90s was there would be talent scouts who would look for talented new artists, and then they would sign them to a contract, and then the record company, which they were associated with, would pay for them to go in the studio. You know, this went on for years like this, like the Beatles, the Stones, all the same. And then the record company would pay for promotion. So really, the only way that you could become breakthrough, as you say, in those days, was to be discovered by what's called an A&R person.
Right.
A&R meant artist and repertoire, and they're people who work for record companies their specific job was to look for talent. Okay. Now that all changed when companies like Napster and then moving on to Spotify and all that, they started free streaming, or at least, and so what happened? There was no longer the record companies just gradually began to disappear. And there's only like one left now. It's like Universal. They brought up everybody else, and Universal is just a big, corporation. They're not
Yeah.
really a music. I don't call them a music company. They're just interested in making money, and it's a stock market and all that stuff. The stuff we're saddled with today. So what we got now, we got because of the advent of technology and the fact that anybody can literally put anything out on the web, which is really good. It's good to any artist, to anybody that's creating anything. You can actually get it out there.
Yeah.
But the downside to that is there's millions of them,
Yeah.
and
You've got competition.
it's saturated, and it's
Yeah.
really impossible to surface. And unfortunately, nobody's making a living. So a lot of people who potentially could be great artists are not can't make a living, so they go back to whatever they're doing for a job or flipping burgers or whatever, and that's the end of that. They didn't do anything with their music. I always encourage anybody I approaches me. I just say, well, it doesn't matter if you're going to forget about trying to make money. It's not going to happen. But if you have something to say and you have integrity, in other words, you don't follow other people, you have your own style, your own unique style. Just keep going because you will surface eventually, but it's a much harder road. And what we got to deal with now is I heard recently that because of AI,
Yeah.
which I use sometimes to do videos. I don't know if you saw Jurassic World, there's a free spirits
No.
with dinosaurs playing guitars and stuff.
No, I didn't see that.
No, go on there. It's on my YouTube channel. It's amazing. It's my first brush with AI video creation.
Oh,
But
wow.
so there's all that. There's all these new creative tools, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
But what companies like the streaming companies like Spotify, who essentially just is a Swedish company, and they're really just interested in making more and more and more and more money, right?
Yeah.
So they pay artists 0.0001% for every time their song is streamed, which so you might get 2 million streams and get a check for $10 if you're lucky, right?
I
Where
know.
2 million streams in the 90s, not streams, but 2 million sales, would have set the artist up for to do many more albums and be able to live in a comfortable place and tour. And so that's all gone. It's just destroyed completely by
Yeah, it's
by
amazing.
technology. I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's literally, it's destroyed, but maybe that's part of evolution. Maybe we have to move on in something different. So I'm trying not to be negative about it, but I did hear the other day that Spotify are now using AI created music as a ghost artist. In other words, artists don't even exist.
Wow.
And they're doing that. They're doing that and flooding their streams with AI created music, so they don't have to pay anybody at all. They don't even pay them the 0.0001%.
Wow.
They're just streaming it out and getting money from advertising, all the stuff they get there, and the stocks are going way up. And they're doing that they're raping artists. They're destroying artists' careers, and they're making a fortune out of it. So that kind of thing, I think we have to move on from.
Hmm.
I spoke to a good friend of mine, who's an Indigenous artist called David Strickland, the other day when I did this concert. And I think the way forward, actually, is for artists to get their own apps. And so that's why I'm looking into that right now. Not that I want to make loads of money, but
No, but it's other people.
I've never been interested in making money. I have to tell you that. I've always been interested in getting heard. And
Hmm.
for me, that's much more important than making money because
Right.
if you have something to say, you have a feeling in your soul that you've done something good because you've helped somebody, because
Right.
they've
Yeah.
heard your song and it's touched them in a way that's made their life a little bit better. That means that's worth more than any money to me, to know that
Yes.
I can do that. So David said that his friend's developing an app where you can literally put it on the app store for nothing with a trial period. And they can get your videos, your everything from
That's
you've got,
amazing.
your lyrics, your photos, anything you want.
Wow.
It's all there, right? And then what you do then, once the people are like getting interested, obviously you have to promote it, but and then you charge a very small subscription. So you imagine that. I mean, I've got like probably at least 20,000 fans in this area, right? So if I get 20,000 people and after the 3 month trial, say it's just going to be $1 a month, so that's $20,000. Because you'll never
Right.
make that out. Never make that out of making streaming companies.
No.
I've not made anything out of streaming companies. It's nothing. The only thing I've ever been paid for my music was through. I got all my stuff on a thing called Bandcamp.
Hmm.
Bandcamps, they don't go out. They're not like a digital store. It's just set up as your page. I've got loads of great stuff on Bandcamp. I've got videos. I've got new songs, unheard stuff that's never been heard. It's all on. It's all on there.
Hmm.
Just go Chris Birkett Bandcamp, and you'll find it all.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can listen for free, but only 3 times, and then after that, you have to pay something. But you pay whatever you
Okay. So
want.
they got the money. Yeah.
But, I've actually received money from Bandcamp. I won't tell you how much, but it's something, for my music. So that's pretty cool. But I'm going to go up I'm going to look into this app thing, because I think it's the way to go for artists. If you've got something to offer, a lot of people are very, they want to be creative. They don't have the skill set, and they get on a computer and they knock out. We're using AI as well quite often these days.
Yeah.
Before that, it's just lifting samples of other people and then singing their own stuff over it. But now with AI, they can knock out, lots of pieces of music and stick it out there. But they're not going to actually make a living out of it, because nobody's buying it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's the way forward. Personally, as I said earlier, I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a point of evolution. It's almost like I think we're in the age of awakening, and
Hmm.
the age of awakening is a cosmic shift of awareness which is happening to this part of the universe, and we're receiving that now. And the thing about awakening is like a rebirth. And
Right. Yes.
the thing about birth is it's painful. It's
Hmm.
a painful process, but you get a new life comes out of it.
New
So
life. Yeah.
so that's what I think we're going into a new life, and it's very exciting to see how it manifests.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Chris, you had two final questions.
Oh yeah, go on.
The first one, I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know, was there a moment before going on stage that you thought, wow, this is amazing, this is electric, this is powerful, that you found your vocal performance? Was there a moment on stage?
No, really, I've always kind of been a singer, but I could say quite honestly that to develop from my perspective, to develop myself into where I am now, it took years and years of experience, and the studio helped a lot, because when you record your vocals in a studio and you hear them back, it's a hell of an education.
Yeah.
You try it. It's because we think we sound like something, and we realize
It's totally different.
oh God, does that mean that's awful? Turn it off. So then you learn what you're doing wrong, and you gradually evolve that way.
Right.
So I recommend anybody if you can't, you don't need a studio these days. We all got voice memos, and we all got GarageBand and all the rest of it. So Logic and cheap programs to record. So I've recommend that anybody who wants to get better and better at singing, apart from taking singing lessons, but singing lessons can tend to make you sound really ordinary. So you have to watch that a little bit. It depends who the teacher is. But apart from that, the real education for your voice is to record yourself and listen back to yourself. And then you'll know what needs to be fixed.
Right.
And then that reflect that experience I've had from years and years of studio where I've done backing vocals, lead vocals on thousands of records, on a lot
Yeah.
for other people as well as me, and it's now very useful for stage, because I kind of learn how to pitch things and how to. I seldom sing out of tune. I hit one out of tune note on the song I played you because my voice hasn't warmed up.
But you hear it, yeah.
Yeah, but I know it was. It's the very last note on "I Found You." I found you. I had to go up there, but I'm using my voice all day, so it's kind of like But when I'm singing tonight, it'll be perfect. But anyway,
exactly.
so,
Maybe
so I
take
didn't
Jack Daniels.
so there was never really one moment when I sort of like a vocal epiphany. Ooh, it's just it's a combination of lots of experience, years and years of experience. But some I mean, Michael Jackson was. I mean, there's some really great singers out there, and some of them are just born. I've heard like did a kids record recently called "Save Our Beautiful World."
Right.
It's a video on YouTube. We put it out on Earth Day, and some of those kids have got had great voices, and they're only like 5 years old. So, there you go. And I've heard prodigies on TikTok, and young kids playing basses and keyboards at an extraordinary level. So I think that's personally, I think that's it's a DNA memory thing. They're connected to
Yeah.
something else which is highly developed, and it's come through in them. Some people say it's reincarnation. That's another theory, but for me, I think it's DNA memory.
Hmm. There's a lot of amazing talent out there. You just need to cultivate those talents.
Yeah.
And final question, Chris. What is your vision for the future?
Um, my personal future or the future of humanity.
Bit of both, your personal future,
uh,
future that you see, like what's happening around in the music industry.
yeah.
Or what is your vision that you see?
As I think we're going through an evolution, an awakening, whether we like it or not. And you can see it happening everywhere in politics, and everything is just really chaotic at the moment. Really
Yes.
chaotic.
Mhm.
Uh, I see that as a really good sign for the future because I know that change is coming, and I think we have to drop the old system. I think we have to get away from using money. Like for me, one of my favorite TV shows is Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry was a visionary, and they don't use money on Star Trek in the future, and that would free us up from a lot of problems. The
Mhm.
capitalist system is non-sustainable. It's very destructive. So I see us moving away from money, and I see it maybe moving into a form of meritocracy as opposed to a democracy. So in other
Right.
words, you ascend in life according to how what your merits are, and like further than that, I'd say you ascend in life according to what you do to help others. And that's the system I think we're going to move into, and I think that's really good. So I feel really positive about the future. So in my own evolution, my own prediction for my future, I see me leaving a huge legacy of music, and whether I become famous as a songwriter, I don't really care, to be quite honest. But I know that I'm making a lot of great stuff, which is going to be heard eventually. My kids are going to, use it, or people I know, and I think I'm leaving a legacy. And I think when I leave this planet, I think I'm definitely going to be interested in becoming a celestial artisan. A celestial artisan is a spirit being that creates beauty and harmony in the universe, but on much bigger spectrum than just the audio spectrum. We can talk about audio stuff we hear with our ears, but we've got light too. That's higher frequency. We've got
Yes.
frequencies way above that, 100 octaves higher, which are all also can be picked up by beings, by spirit beings, not sentient beings. Sentient beings like us are stuck to narrow perception bands of frequency.
Hmm.
The highest thing anyone can hear is like 20,000 cycles a second. That's like a hiss, really high. So that's just ears, and you can't. Your nose works with another set of frequencies. That's why you can't hear a smell, or you can't see a sound. Whatever. You can see a sound now with electronically, but it's different. But
Yeah.
so anyway, for me, I believe that my next job in my ascension process, because I believe that we're all eternal beings. I believe that we're all spirit beings in material bodies, and I think we're here for a very short, limited time to experience material existence in all its pains and suffering and joys and all the stuff we go through
Mm.
in material bodies. I think that's all for us to learn from. So
Right.
I think my job is going to be a celestial artist, and I'm going to be creating harmony in all different spheres of manifestation, and I'm really looking forward to that. So,
Absolutely. I heard Meatloaf. He talked about he doesn't like to be called a legend. And Meatloaf, I mean, he was a legend.
yeah,
And I heard him in an interview that he does not like to be called a legend. But Chris, you truly, yes, you are going to leave a legacy. And I just want to acknowledge you for a moment. I want to acknowledge you for everything that you are doing, the impact you are making around the world with your music, with your talent. And music is a lost art.
Mm.
We're all focused around our goals and our careers, but we don't take the time to reflect in ourselves as to, wait a minute, what is the talent that I have? Harness the talent. And you, Chris, have really brought that within us, and you are
Mm.
helping millions of people around the world. And so I want to acknowledge you for this moment, this time, to say thank you.
I'll
Thank
take
you
it again. Well, can I
for
give
the
you a
music.
bit? Can I give you a bit of advice?
Yes.
After this interview, go down and play your drum kit
Okay.
because playing music is a very high level of therapy,
I love music.
and it's whether you're playing percussion, drums, or whatever you're doing, piano, whatever your particular leaning is, it's so therapeutic. It's really, really, really important. I've been sometimes in a situation where I feel really sick. I've got flu or something, and I play music or I listen to it, and it completely transforms. It's so healing.
Mhm.
So go down and play those drums as you mentioned them earlier. I think it's an important thing for you to do. So
I will do. Thank you. And I'm always listening to your music. The second album, The Free Spirits,
oh yeah,
that is so
circle of
uplifting.
sound. Yeah.
To
Oh,
you and Cheryl, yes.
yeah, I got another project I've got to quickly tell you about because this is a
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
it's
Yes.
it's Earth Week and my my music is all about raising awareness,
Yes.
certain truth to things. So Earth Week is about respecting the planet, really realizing we live on this beautiful orb, blue orb in space, right?
Yeah.
So I've got this project called the Happy Campers, and it's with me and my wife Joan, who you met. She's a
Yes. Yes.
documentary filmmaker.
Hmm.
Uh, Anyway, she's we got this record we just released it yesterday, and it's called Electric Cars, and it's a song that I wrote when I was in my 20s when I
Uh-huh.
was living in London. It used to be called, there weren't electric cars in those days.
Yeah.
It's about the traffic in Piccadilly Circus.
Right. Yeah.
I saw these cars crazily just jamming in and solidly blocked and pumping out fumes. So I wrote this song called Shiny Cars when I was in my 20s about this subject. Never released it. When I dug it up, as I told you, I got this huge backlog of songs.
Yeah.
So I dug the
Yeah.
song out, played it to Joan, and then I played it to a guy called Dave Charles, who's works for Chorus. He's a good
Hmm.
friend of mine. He's a DJ, and you know. So Dave really liked it. He said, "Why don't you call it Electric Cars to bring it up to date?" So we did. I remade the lyrics. We all worked on the lyrics together, used my music, and
Hmm.
I put it together in the studio. And Joan just finished the video. We filmed ourselves at the car show in Toronto last
Amazing.
year. And we also went to Brampton to an electric car dealer and filmed me
Mhm.
driving around in a car. So check it out. It's just been put on YouTube yesterday.
Okay.
It's called Electric Cars, and please share it. And because it's an important record.
Okay. And
You're
that's your
right.
YouTube channel,
Yeah,
Chris
it's my
Birkett.
YouTube channel. Yeah, the project is called the Happy Campers, but it's essentially me and Joan Proust, my wife.
Okay.
Is
Amazing. Okay.
released a song last year called Icky Cottage Blues, and that's about the your average rental. When you go in a
Oh,
cottage
yes.
and you open the drawer and there's a dead mouse in it and stuff. It's like mold around the shower and so the Happy Campers is a social comments band project.
Mhm.
So anything we see that's funny, need to draw attention to, we write a
Brilliant.
song about it. So I think you like Electric Cars. Check it out. So I'm sure you like the melody.
Absolutely. So, Chris, I want to appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Where can we find you, and how can we help to support you?
Oh, right, great. Okay, it was chrisburkett.ca. So Burkett spelled with an I because it's from the birch tree. It's an old English name.
Right.
Birkett. Chrisburkett.ca is you'll get most of the links. But please also go to my Bandcamp. So it's Bandcamp, Chris Birkett. You'll find me straight away. Lots of new stuff that I've never put out there. There's a song called The System, which talks about the capitalist system that we're in, but in a really profound way. It's not negative at all. There's a song called I Roam, which is a story about me that I'm essentially a troubadour. And so there's some really good music on there, and it's not been released. But and then I put that was loads of stuff. There's an album called Gash, which I wrote with my son, who was an electronic genius, and we were living together in south of France in the studio. And we were big fans of Nine Inch Nails at the time, so we put this rock album with electronic sounds together, and that was never released. So I put it on my Bandcamp page a few weeks ago. I remastered it on my system, and it sounds really good. So check. It's all a load of stuff to listen to. So so the YouTube is my Chris Birkett music. So that's out there, but you get all that stuff. You just have to remember chrisburkett.ca. All the links should take you to the right places.
Amazing. So we'll put all the links in the show notes,
Yeah,
so that people can, connect with you, listen
yeah,
to your amazing music.
yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode with the amazing Chris Burkett, who has shared with you the challenges that people may experience as you're transitioning into the music industry, you're launching your new career, as to what to expect. And really appreciate Chris today for his time, and we appreciate each and every one of you for taking out your time. Until next time on Ask the Experts. Bye for now. Thank you so
Sure.
much, Chris.
Thank you. Are you coming to the show tonight?
Tonight, not tonight.
It's not my band. I'm a